Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are returning to our look at Gary Grigsby's Bombing the Reich. This is part of a game that is sold by Matrix and Slytherin Games. You'll find it under Eagle Day to Bombing the Reich. It's a two-game sort of bundle, Eagle Day being the Battle of Britain, Bombing the Reich being the strategic air campaign against Germany from August of 1943 to the conclusion of the war. This is our third episode in this series. In the first episode, we recreated the Schweinfurt and Regensburg raid, sort of in conjunction with it airing on Masters of the Air. In the last episode, we said, hey, what if we were to do fighter sweeps? How much damage could we do against German aircraft? The answer was a lot. The problem is you don't kill many pilots, and the Germans produce a heck of a lot of airplanes. You got to destroy way more airplanes than you do pilots. And you also kind of lose a lot of aircraft to flak and other causes like that. So it was kind of a mixed turn. In today's episode, we are going to look at bombing Berlin. We decided, you know what? We bombed Berlin in the first episode a little bit. We lost a lot of planes, but what if we were to put a little bit more thought into it? What if we were to use the night interdiction functionality to try and disperse the German fighters and see what would happen if we were to hit Berlin with a max effort? If we were to bomb two different spots in Berlin with a total of over 1,000 heavy bombers, what would happen? Could we win the war overnight? Could we make Bomber Harris proud? We'll see. That's what we're going to be doing in today's episode and looking at the mechanics in this game for area bombing, which is, you know, not popular these days. Probably rightfully so. But it is a big part of this game, and it is one way that you try and progress toward victory. You've got sort of three victory conditions. The first is destroying the enemy air force. The second is bombing and destroying the enemy industry. And the third is the bombing of areas and cities. But let's go ahead and jump in. This was taken from a live stream on my Twitch channel from the other night. And without further ado, away we go. All right, I guess the P-38s aren't going to get the day off. You all stuck getting escort duty for these B-25s. Is this the whole game crazy? Like clicking on buttons and planning missions? Yes. I mean, you see the resolution, but it takes a while. All right, so let's do this. Let's go up to Northern Europe. We're going to do a nighttime bombing raid. Any interest in Headquarters World War II? Yes-ish. I plan to play it. I wasn't super interested in doing the demo at the time, but I plan on playing it. Do we want to plan a raid on Berlin? Should we do that? We lost 40 bombers going to Peenemünde 4 days ago, so the RAF is maybe a little bit shook up, but they didn't fly last night. Do we want to try and bomb Berlin? Nighttime raid? Might be cloudy, but they're going to radar bomb anyway, right? What's the, not that. What's the urban area? Okay, so there's this big circle which represents Berlin. You can see these little black areas are bombed out areas that are like completely destroyed, and then the yellow is damaged areas. Nobody expects bombing Berlin. So I guess, I don't know if this matters, like if I bomb targets other than center Berlin. But let's try doing that. Let's do a night bombing. We're going to hit Weissennesse here on the eastern suburbs of Berlin. We are going to fly. What's the best way to get there, right? Like, if we fly way north, do we avoid anything? Like form up over Hull and then fly in from an angle? Maybe they'll never expect us. What's the German radar coverage look like? So they won't see us. So if we do this, a little bit further south. So they can see us taking off and forming up over England here. You can see this radar coverage here, I think. I don't want them to see that. So if we form up south of Hull, Coming down this way. And then they'll angle south. I don't really want them flying over Lübeck. So let's push that a bit further east. So they will go over a Focke-Wulf factory there, which could be a lot of flak. Push a little bit further east. And then the initial point, which is kind of sort of, I think, where the raid starts. Or is the initial point where the bombing raid actually starts, or is it just like the final turn in? And are those the same thing? Okay. This feels like it avoids most of the heavier flak to me. The exit point will fly east of the city because I don't particularly want to go back over all that flak. And then back over Denmark. So this does cause us to fly in radar coverage a bit more than I wanted, like just off the northern coast. Can I push this up a bit? I mean, it keeps us out there a little bit more. I don't know that that's beneficial at the extra distance. It's got to be a 1,400 mile long raid. Okay. Let's start this a little bit later in the day, although the time over target is 2 in the morning, so it's... When does sun come up? What's sunrise? Anybody know? I'm a little worried what the... So if time over target is 2, it might be starting to get light before they're totally out of damage. Moonrise is 22:17. Moonset is 11:07. So the moon's going to be out. I don't know what the value of 16 means. It's not a full moon. Sunrise 6:03, good call. Sunset 1900. So we'll do a 2100 start time over target 2 in the morning. It's going to be a radar bombing, but let's get the altitude up to what, 18,000-ish. Sounds smart. Pick lead unit. This might be too far out for the mosquitoes. So actually, this is going to limit the amount of bombers we can bring with us because not as many folks can fly this far. Lead for the formation needs to be, it'll be a Pathfinder out of 8 group. 405th Squadron flying Lancaster 3s. Okay. Everybody's morale's over 50, so that's good enough. All right, so we don't want to take... I'm going to actually do 2 separate raids here for this particular strike. I don't know if that'll improve the effectiveness or not, but I'm going to do 2 separate raids. So the first group's the Pathfinder group. What I don't know is I would assume you'd rather a group with a navigation radar than a Pathfinder group, I would think. But I don't know. Like, I don't really know in this game what's the best strategy to effectively hit a target at night. I just assume mass is good, so more bombers is good. But I don't know. I'm assuming there's a diminishing return somewhere in there, right? But yeah, so we're going to hit pretty heavy, I think, in this first group. only get 500 in the first group. Rhodesia Air. All right, the second group is going to be a lot weaker. So 510 bombers are going to hit this target. And then, so 510 bombers are going to hit this target. And here's the secret for planning night raids, in my opinion. We've got this raid set up. We'll go ahead and hit done. You can see the raids: 47 Halifax 5s, 147 Halifax 2s, 58 Lancaster 2s, 221 Lancaster 1s, and 37 Lancaster 3s. They're going to bomb by radar, so weather doesn't really matter as long as they can form up. But then what we're going to do is we're going to do a night intruder mission. We're going to hit the follow button. So these guys are going to follow the exact course as the raid before them. We're going to go ahead and have a start time of 10 minutes before the lead group. We're going to pick, oh, nobody can reach there. Damn you. Okay, so the distance to target is a problem. The distance to target is a problem. Target point. What if we make this a shorter raid? Just pick a random spot. Oh. So if we just have a formation spot here? No. Well, shit. Guess they're going in unescorted, boys. In that case, we'll do a follow-up mission here. And we're going to pick a different target. So the first group's going to bomb Vesanessa, which if we go here and we pull up the urban section, that's this little circle here. The second group, we're going to go up a little bit further north than this other group, and they're all kind of part of the Berlin area. So the second group's going to hit Rosenthal, which is a little bit further west. So primary target here. So they'll follow the previous mission's course. You just hit the follow button, and everything is the same. Start time, altitude, as all the previous mission, all the waypoints. The only difference is I just chose a different primary target. So they're almost identical courses, just with a slight variance of when I hit primary and I change the primary target. Everything else is the same, though. So then we'll go ahead and pick a lead unit here. We'll make sure these guys have radars. We'll go ahead and add more bombers. And so the second raid's only going to have 180 men. So we're going to have like 700 aircraft roughly hitting Berlin. We'll do these guys 20 minutes later. Maybe we should do them earlier. I don't know. All right. So can we do a night intruder that follows that mission? Anybody else get in range there? No. Ooh, I actually have a better idea. So they're going to pick these guys up going north, right? So what if we do this? What if we have the same target, but we have a further south path? So we draw the enemy fighters on a different path to Berlin. So let's do that. I think that might work. Also, considerably less range, 400-mile less range. So we'll go in over Amsterdam. Then we can do radar jammers. So these Halifax RCMs, multiple planes. We'll also have them start a little bit earlier in the day. So they'll do that. We'll take a look at the review here. Time over target, 2,300. So actually their time over target is like 2 hours earlier in the day. Okay. So they'll hopefully draw these enemy bombers, these enemy fighters up and away from the primary formation because they're jamming the enemy. That's what the RCM are, is their radar jammers, basically. Go ahead and have another raid follow them. We're going to do those guys with bow fighters. So maybe they can, intercept the enemy fighters that might be going for the RCMs. Then I suppose, since that previous raid is going to be kind of light, can we Do we have bombers with better range? So we could, and maybe this is not smart, but we could hit with like mosquitoes or other shorter range aircraft along this same path. I don't really know what I'm doing. There's nobody here has radar. There are some pathfinders, but they don't have radar. I feel like mosquitoes are less of a risk to get destroyed, right? Like, so they can hit that other target, maybe? I don't know. Max effort, boys. This is going to be 1,000 raid on Berlin. 1,000 bomber raid on Berlin, boys. These guys are going over a much more dangerous path, though. So these guys are going to go. We'll set these guys at a completely different time of day. So if they go, they're going to get over at like 1 a.m. And at least I can give these guys some cover. In theory, we can send some fighters. Now, the problem is these are not as robust or as good as bombers, but so we're hitting two different targets. We're hitting about 500 bombers on Rosenthal. We're hitting about 500 bombers at Wiesenesse, which are two different sections of Berlin. Let's see here. If we go to review, so you can see here, you've got 510 bombers at Wiesenesse, 390 at Rosenthal, another 180 at Rosenthal. So that's 490, 570, 1,080 bombers hitting Berlin tonight. Apparently the British only actually had like 5 actual 1,000 bomber raids, and they were all in 1942. They had more than 1,000 bombers going at different targets on the same night, but like to actually target one specific target with 1,000 bombers, they only had a handful of them. I didn't realize that. 43, not 42? Okay. All right, so these guys, time over target 142, time over target 053, time over target 2 a.m. So these two come in about the same time. They're separated by about an hour. So hopefully the enemy fighters have sort of used up some of their fuel and other things like that. We'll do another night intruder mission, follow the previous raid, pick a lead unit, mosquito RCMs. Hopefully they can jam the hell out of the enemy aircraft. Time over target 110. We're actually I want to push these guys back so they're like jamming for that particular raid. I don't know if like varying the altitude on the RCMs also would potentially be useful. So like if we push these guys up to, or push these guys down to 15, maybe it like influences how effective the interceptors are. Maybe they go in on different altitudes. So we're going to go ahead and put another one of these in 10 minutes later. We're going to do a night fighter squadron here. 6 of these guys come in 10 minutes later. We'll do another one of these, another 10 minutes later. What I always like to do is always like send in as many night fighters as you can and just stagger them by groups of 10. Oops. So, or 10 minutes, so that like in theory they're coming in with the bomber stream, because the bombers don't all come in at once. Remember, like the British formations, it's going to be like a long line with gaps between them. So I feel like if you send guys in sort of staggered as fighters, then you are more likely to intercept the enemy, rather than like if they all go in at once, then you know you're gonna kind of have a head with a stronger head with fighters up front, but you're going to have less fighters on the back end of the formation, and that's going to be more vulnerable. I think. I don't really know. These are all guesses. I'm not an expert in this game. Those B fighters. All right, so let's take a look. Time over target on these guys. We got the... Oh, that's dumb. Don't do that. Mission. All right, so we got the night raid here. Time over target 142. These interdiction raids. These guys are about the same as a fighter group. 2 o'clock. Nothing after that. So we got a pretty strong amount of coverage, I think. Let's also do another Night Intruder mission elsewhere. So we're going to see if we can send someone to another target to draw them off. And these guys are going to go a bit later to try and coincide with the second raid, so maybe draw them away. So we will go with more RCMs, more radar jammers down here to the south, doing whatever we can to confuse the Germans. We'll do another fighter sweep with night fighters on that same course. Time over target is, this is way early. These guys are too fast. That's part of the problem. It's like mosquitoes, they're not slow. What did the last interdiction raid do? What was their time over target? Yeah, these guys need to push later. Okay. Got to put as much chaff and other things like that up in the sky as possible. I should probably be like picking courses that are less likely to draw flak, but you know, whatever. I already did that. And we'll do one fighter group to escort for them. And then I think we'll be done. Like you could do this more elaborately for sure. And it may come back to bite me, you know. We shall see. Okay, also we should do a little bit more. I'm not doing a ton of aerial recon over Northern Europe. Let's get rid of those radar sections. But we should do some over these fighter fields just to keep our intel. We'll do end of day. I don't know that like before the raid matters as much as end of day to see where the enemy might move their fighters after I keep strafing these handful of fields. We can do this quickly enough though. On the deck, boys. I am not going to do the slow, you know, give me every single report for the entire raid, but we might do it for a few minutes just to kind of see how things are going. Okay. To watch the massacre unfold. I don't know. I don't know how much of a massacre it'll be. We'll see. I've got good vibes. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. We didn't lose 40 bombers going over Peenemünde. That wasn't bad. You know, so what can happen if you add another 400 aircraft to the equation? And also some probably not, like Sterling 3s probably shouldn't be going to Berlin without Lancasters mixed in. They're not the most robust of British bombers. But, you know, it is what it is. It's a bombing raid on eastern Berlin. You know, we're not even going for the core of the city. We're going for the eastern suburbs, which I don't know if that means like that's more or less likely to cause a firestorm. Probably less likely, but I'm trying to fill in the circle. That's my logic. I'm trying to fill in the circle of damage. You can't just hit one spot in the city that's already badly damaged. So like as a reminder, if you go over to any city, any urban section, and you click this little button here, yellow is damaged, black is destroyed. So like Western Berlin seems like it's been pretty heavily hit and damaged, and so it seems to me less likely to start a firestorm because there's going to be less combustible materials here. However, the eastern section at Weisennesse and Rosenthal, these areas seem much less likely, and I suppose Berlin, Spree, and Karlshort, These areas seem like maybe they're fresh for damage. These guys have been living in a little bit too much comfort, perhaps. Alsdorf's been hit hard, but these are like the specific, it looks like Tempelhof has been hit the hardest. But these areas, you know, they need to feel the wrath. They need to feel the wrath of the Allies. What's over there? You got the Berlin Spray Port. You've got the Berlin Kraftwerk Power Facility. You got the Daimler-Benz Armored Factory. Pretty big one. AGFA Chemical Werke. And the Dürer Wittenau Metallwerke are all kind of in this general area, which I believe they can take damage if the city burns that stuff. But in any event, I think that's it. Should we do one more fighter sweep? Do we want to try and shut down? I'm assuming the enemy still has fighters at Dielen. They might even have night fighters there. At Ludenvarden also. Luvarden. I think this is a night fighter base. So let's help our boys out. Let's do one fighter sweep in Northern Europe, or a couple, to help the night raid out, perhaps. I'll risk the flak. So those P-47s don't have a B next to them, which I'm assuming means they don't have bombs. Not a lot of guys can reach here, though. Eighth Air Force gets another day off from bombing raids, I guess. Actually, you know what? Cancel that. 40 fighters here. Let's help out in a different way. B-17s. You'll probably consider this one a milk run, but every once in a while the heavy bombers did actually bomb airfields. Wasn't super common, but it did happen. So let's do that. Just pulverize the airfield. I don't know. You probably won't destroy as many aircraft on the ground as a fighter sweep would, but it's also within range of these P-47s, like, doing their thing. And everybody can sweep, or not sweep, everybody can escort. So 130 B-17s are going to hit the airfield at Steenwerk at 500 feet. Maybe we should adjust this altitude, huh? The major airfields change, units move around, Neuhauser, but we're going to do multiple raids. So we'll do 16,000 feet. They'll probably bomb much more accurately at that altitude. Oh, wait. That's an afternoon strike, isn't it? That's fine. More chaos shortly before the nighttime bombing. We'll do Dielen. With more B-17s. Some of these are the elements that didn't go to Regensburg, but that's fine. Their morale is generally good. So 147 are going to Dielen. We'll do one group of close, one group of high. Okay. So we got a group going to Dielen. We got a group going to Leidenwerken, however you pronounce that. Oops. And we want to try and hit Schiphol? I feel like that's the real base. That's more of a daytime fighter base, though, I believe. Let's also do Leuvarden. I think we have enough B-17s to do another raid. Yeah, so we got 3 raids of over 100 B-17s. These guys don't quite have as many fighter escorts, so we'll stick them all in close. So 3 raids there. We'll also do a Schiphol raid early in the day with tactical bombers, I think. So we're going full against the airfields. So we'll do these guys with B-26s. And Spitfires and escort. We'll drop their bombing altitude down to 15,000 just because they don't have as good a bomb sites. And I don't know that I can get toward 20 with anything. I mean, the tactical bombers could, but I don't know that we can get fighter escorts out that far. So the Typhoons could go out that way. But they had a pretty busy day yesterday. The Bostons and the Mitchells are not, they're fresh-ish. So we could hit them with some Boston 3As. Do they have fighter escorts that can make it? Actually, we haven't used those guys up yet, so give me the range. Crap. Yeah, these guys can make it. So these Spitfire 9s. Okay, so the Mustangs can make it there. All right, let's put the Mustangs at close escort. And then we'll have high escorts with the Spitfire 9s. And 12s. Okay. All right, so that's that. We'll probably I'll do an off-screen large-scale reconnaissance mission between turns, like do another turn where things calm down. But this is the bombing in Holland is to support the nighttime raid on Berlin. So we'll see. I'm not too worried about the B-17s. These are not deep penetration strikes. They should be okay there. The nighttime RAF, we'll see. But let's end the phase. And let's see what happens here. We didn't do any sweeps of any of those airfields with fighters, which I guess we could have. But as you've told me anyway, Hauser, the British tried to fight them in the air rather than on the ground. So we did get 100 of them, though, yesterday. So let's go. I probably forgot something, and this will be a blatant disaster, but we'll see. I don't know if the radioactivity matters for... All right, tactical bombers coming in fast and hard before the Germans even get a chance to scramble. Some of these guys in southern France scrambled, but the actual aircraft at Schiphol did not. And so you can see here the bombers hit the airfield. They're damaging aircraft on the ground. It looks like they're going to destroy some on the ground with their bombs. So they're going to get some of the airfields. I do know that the tactical bombers did hit the airfields to support the Schweinfurt raid. But again, I don't think the fighters did. I think it was just like basically what we're doing here. But again, if the Germans are producing 2,000 aircraft a month, destroying even like 50 a day on the ground, not going to do as much for us as destroying 30 or 40 in the air where the pilots lost. But you can see we're actually doing a pretty decent amount of damage to these guys on the ground. 109 G5s. So less risk of flak too at that altitude. So this has actually been a surprisingly good raid so far. We'll see what happens when all these German fighters get at us over the channel, which is probably where we'll intercept them. See, we still lost a Spitfire there to flak. So we've got the morning raids. Then we've got the afternoon raids with the B-17s. But the Marauders are doing some pretty good work here. Quite a few 109s getting damaged. That should help the B-17s in their raids to the east of this sort of inland sea. I don't know what the sea to the east of Amsterdam's called, but man, they're doing work. A lot of aircraft getting destroyed or damaged on the ground here. Earlier today, you saw Tortuga in Quillstream, not THD. Good day. Tortuga in, like he was chatting in Quillstream? I know he's been watching a couple of Quill's games. But this is, I'm kind of surprised how much, I don't usually see the two engines do this much damage. Like they'll destroy an airfield, they'll ground an airfield, but holy crap, these whatever squadrons here must be getting just wiped out on the ground. Oh, Spitfires, don't do that. My escorts decided they were going to strafe the airfield, but now that means if these fighters come up at them, they're going to be out of position. In Grigsby, games definitely like your altitude matters very much in sort of the midway kind of a way where like fighters get drawn down to lower altitude and then are out of position. Like that all matters. If you hover over these groups, you can see it'll give you the altitude for the groups. Although it looks like the Marauders got out of harm's way before the German fighters could get there. I guess that's the advantage of the damn things being fast. The Bostons, on the other hand, they're probably going to be in trouble. Oh, Mustangs, don't do that. All right, so 110s, those is the G4, I think those are night fighters. I think the G4 is a night fighter variant. So that might be helping the... And here comes the slaughter. So they at least damaged a couple of night fighters on that field. They didn't do anywhere near... Oh, they're still strafing. So they are damaging enemy night fighters. So presumably these guys won't be able to be part of the force that scrambles the Berlin raid tonight. So that's nice. 24 Axis aircraft destroyed on the ground already. Nice. Sorry, Nigeria Squadron. 2 Spitfires just got bounced and destroyed. It's going to be a bad day to be a Spitfire or a Mustang 1 pilot. '91st Nigeria Squadron. Hey, we got an F-190. Good job, boys. Anybody know what's the difference between the 190A and the F offhand? Seems like in France we've seen mostly 190A5s, but that airfield in Italy had 190Fs. So... Anyway, at least the Marauders got in and out fast. Those damn things, those are useful. The F was a ground attack version. God damn it. Well, that sucks. Because I destroyed like 30 of them yesterday in Italy, all on the ground. I guess that's good from a theoretical we're supporting the invasion of Italy thing, right? Big dogfight happening over Holland right now. Also, I suppose the other positive here is all these German fighters that are scrambling. If they do scramble later in the day when our B-17 raids come in, they're going to be tired, so they'll be less effective. Or they may just not scramble at all. But forcing an enemy to fly twice in one day is very good from a wearing them out point of view. You can do it too. You can choose to fly 2 missions a day for fighters, but it will greatly increase the fatigue. And man, our Spitfires are getting shredded a bit. Probably because I came in at a lower altitude. Maybe. I don't know. Is coming in at 15 or 16,000 feet a big detriment for the Spitfire versus the F-190? Or is it maybe they dove down to strafe the airfield? That could have been part of it too. Certainly for those Mustangs. Don't waste the Spitfire 12s. You only get 2 squadrons of them. I don't know what the replenishment level is. There are drop tanks now, Artemis, but they're not the super long-range drop tanks. The wide-scale, long-range drop tanks, I'm assuming the game model's history, but you're looking more at like December of 1943 is when the production on those really ramps up. December is also when you start seeing the P-51Bs, which have the longer range, P-50, or not longer range, which have the better engine for higher altitude performance. The D is the iconic version, which I believe was like January or so of 44, but P-51Bs started doing deep penetration escorts in December of 43. So yeah, this raid, the initial raid, very good. Was it Skippel? The second raid, not so good. Casualties mounting. A lot of them in the fighter force. The bombers actually haven't been hit that hard. But the Mustangs, yikes. They're excellent under 5,000 feet? Okay, maybe I shouldn't have been flying at 10 then. I thought it was 15,000 feet or below, but these boys not doing so hot. The Bs had the Merlin engines also, Artemis. The A did not. I'm assuming the Mustang 1 is the A equivalent. Hey, look, more Spitfire 12s. I forget. There were a few like enhancements. Oh my God, these Spitfire 12s getting wrecked. Stop bouncing, my boys. General LeMay, I have no squadron. Well, at least we're forced a lot of German planes to fly. Those Mustangs did not perform well. What are they all at? What are these altitudes at? They're under 5,000. Well, some of them are at 12. 10. 9. Okay. So I wonder if... I don't know. I wonder how much of this struggle is because some of these planes dove down to strafe the airfield. Because when we did escorts with the Spitfires in the previous missions at higher altitudes, they did fine, but they weren't bombing airfields. So how much of the fact that they dove down to attack the airfield themselves is why these guys are getting shredded? Like they used up a lot of fuel and ammo, maybe? Bad day. Get out of there. Oh, God. Getting bounced. Yeah, so getting bounced basically means the enemy's diving on you from a higher altitude. Attacking, I believe, means roughly you're coming in at the same altitude or climbing. Bouncing means they're coming down at an altitude advantage. And so if they're coming down on you from a higher altitude, they have a speed advantage. So they may surprise you too. That may also mean they're surprising you. Like coming out of the sun, you don't see them coming up behind you. But also that they're coming down on you with a speed advantage, and so you're at a heavy disadvantage. All right, this is a real bad day for the Mustangs that were assigned to escort. I think part of the problem was a lot of them were equipped with bombs rather than drop tanks, and so they dove down to attack the airfield, despite the fact that their orders were to escort, and they got themselves out of position, used up a lot of their fuel, used up a lot of their bombs, and the Germans shredded them on the way out. We lost over 20 Mustangs in the British RAF in this particular segment of the day. But that being said, we're going to jump ahead a little bit here to the nighttime bombing phase, just because this one gets a bit long in the tooth. And I know this isn't necessarily the most exciting thing to watch, so let's jump ahead. We're moving to the night operation phase, I think. Here we go. All right, so you can see these southern flights of RCM aircraft. Enemy are being drawn in. A lot of enemy fighters going in. I believe those southern aircraft, the only ones that have flown in the south so far, I believe, are the night fighters and the RCM aircraft. So all these guys are sort of forming up and hovering here. Meanwhile, the bulk of the 1,000 plane raid. Let's pause real quick. So all these German aircraft forming up in the south for the southern thrust. We've also got these RCMs. So these radar countermeasure aircraft moving in here. A bunch of German night fighters have scrambled to go after them. Another RCM aircraft is up here. But then we've got our 1,000 bomber, or the beginnings of the 1,000 bomber raid. These Pathfinders, 22 Lancasters up here in the north. 23 more Lancasters up here. So nobody is yet anywhere near the main, the sort of half of the bomber formation. So that is good news, because the last time we did a raid like this, when we went to Peenemünde, the enemy fighters were all over us, even over the North Sea. Granted, we were on a more southerly trajectory, but that's good news, I think, so far. Some of our bow fighters are attacking rail yards and other targets of opportunity, I suppose. At night, that is a thing they can do. Got some 109 G6s night variants down here. I didn't tell any of these guys to attack Munster, so they must just be making a choice to attack that rail yard. I'm not very good, Jack, but I'm glad you're enjoying. I can't believe we have 100 people watching this game at midnight on a weekend. Everybody's like, what the hell is this thing? And someone else earlier saying, like, is this the whole game? It's like, kind of. But, you know, it's certainly one of a kind. I'll put it that way. It is not a game I would think would stream well. But here we are. 2 hours plus and sitting at around 100. All right, so the night raid of Berlin. Planes are still... Okay, so I think the enemy's onto us. It looks like there's a wave of night fighters heading north. So this formation may just frankly be too big for them to not be like, holy shit. But some of these guys are following the Southern RCM group. You can see all of these down here in the lower left-hand corner. You see all of these night fighters streaming in after this one jamming aircraft. So overall, I would say, at least to a point, the RCM missions have been a success in getting the Germans to get a lot of their night fighters airborne, and they're at least somewhat dispersed. Oh, fuck, 100%. Well, part of the problem is going to be while you bomb. What are you doing? You're attacking German troops. Okay. Okay. Hey, we spotted German troops. Let's attack them. One of the problems is going to be is if it is cloudy, our lead planes are bombing by radar, which should help, like, see things, right? Should help if you can't see things. But the following planes that don't have radar guidance on the bombing, they're not going to be able to see the fire and the damage if it's completely covered. I guess my point more, Hauser, is that there's two thrusts, right? There's a southern thrust to Berlin and there's a northern thrust. So that southern RCM aircraft is pulling aircraft away from the southern Berlin thrust, maybe less so from the northern Berlin thrust. Christmas Day, max effort. Yeah, we can do that. I mean, we've got 1,000 aircraft up today, Jack. This is 1,000 raid on two. There's two different spots in Berlin we're hitting with 1,000 bombers. Now, Berlin's large enough that maybe you can bomb off target and still have bombs hit Berlin. But we're probably not going to get a firestorm unless we've got a real good tight concentration. Because you can form a firestorm in this game. That can happen. It's not easy, but it can happen. Any plans to do a PBM GG game with anyone like XRG? Well, we are currently playing Yes, Jack, this game is a war crime simulator, if you will. You can see, so the way the game is scored, if you look down here on the lower left, you've got air superiority. So the higher this number, the better sort of your air superiority score, which is a way you can win. You've got industry damage, which is obviously what it sounds like, destroying factories. And you have terror, which is bombing civilians. And so all three of these scores influence getting to a victory, right? Man, a lot of these guys are going in on dealing, huh? They're destroying some of those F-190s on the ground. I didn't order, like, I guess maybe night intruders just attack any target of opportunity. But we are playing play by email game Artemis against Evoken right now for War in the Pacific. It is the succession to my War in the Pacific series. It originally started against XTRG, and then when he decided he'd learned enough and didn't want to play in that series anymore and kind of stepped away, we've had 3 or 4 different people pick that up and run with it. We are currently in June of 1942 in War in the Pacific against, but it started 6 years ago against XTRG. By the way, I don't think I thanked you. Monk, thank you for the follow. DV Music, thank you for the follow. And Stalin's Pet, thank you for the follow. Noah Streff, thank you for the sub. I don't know if I thanked you for that or not a while back. And Lazy Bees, thank you for the follow. All right, so all told, like, there's a lot of stuff going on. I think we're going to speed time up because, well, I kind of want to wait and see if the bombers are hitting their target. But it is going slow. But it's cool that we're destroying more aircraft on the ground at Deelen. Bad day for the Germans at Deelen. Man, they got shredded between the B-26s and the Mosquitoes coming in at night. Don't be based at Deelen, huh? Hanover Rail Yard. All right, 100% obscured. So does that mean bombs are falling in the Berlin area? Good. I guess Berlin's big enough. Be cool to see 3D models of the B-17s and B-24s. Yeah, no one's really made a game like this. There was a game that was released last year, I think, or maybe a year or before that, called Bomber Command, which was a very arcadey version of something trying to be like this. But I don't know, Hauser. I know you didn't think that the fighters in the south were far enough away to be pulled away from the northern raid. But compared to what we saw at Peenemünde, there are definitely fighters on the bombing sort of stream, but nowhere near as much as usual. So they are definitely dispersed to an extent. Someone's dropping their bombs way up here. That's like 100 miles away from Berlin. Fire that crew, that squadron. WIF? What's WIF? B-17 Redux. I have not really given it a look yet. Hey, the bombs are falling in the Wiesenus area. Good. That's the actual target. Good job, boys. World in Flames. I have not played that. My thoughts on B-17 Redux. Hey, we shot down an enemy fighter with a night fighter. Good job, boys. Good question. I haven't played it a lot yet. I was a little disappointed in the initial sort of look. So I'm assuming, by the way, when we see it say bombs are falling in the Berlin area, what that probably means is they dropped the bomb. It wasn't on the specific target. However, it's still doing industry damage or city damage. It's doing area damage, but it's not concentrated because it's not hitting the target you're specifically hit. So you're probably not going to hit a firestorm. They're probably dispersed random bombs falling in different spots of the city. Is my name based off of Harry? Oh, that's someone else. In terms of my thoughts on the B-17 Redux by Microprose, I haven't played it very much. So I don't know that I have a super strong opinion on it. Oh, those are going to fall in an open area. Yeah, damn. I would say that I was a little disappointed in at least the reception that I've seen from it. Like it to me, it feels like they kind of just said like, okay, now it runs on Windows 10. And I didn't expect like a full remaster per se. Like the Bloody 100th is what the new game is going to be. So anybody who's like expecting this should look like DCS, why does it still look like a 20-year-old game? No, it's a 20-year-old game that they're making work on a new system. But I guess I had hoped that like they'd increase the formation size or do a couple of other things within the limits of it's still going to look like an old game. I guess I had hoped they would have done a little bit more than they did. So I don't know. That's kind of my thought. It hasn't compelled me yet to be like, oh, let's go take a look at that in any kind of long-term thing. I do want to eventually do that. Meanwhile, a lot of these bombers are dropping over open territory near Norruppen, which is a little frustrating. You can see quite a few of these Lancasters are dropping way out here, well off target. Let's speed this along, though. I don't think a 3D version would help you know what's going on. I think it would be better if there were less alerts and you kind of got like maybe at the different waypoints you got an alert of what had happened to that waypoint of like 7 of 20 bombers damaged, 2 of 20 bombers shot down, you know, maybe some alerts about like how the fighters are doing, like those kind of things. Like, are they getting bounced? Are they not? But do it in bigger chunks, like an every minute report. I can't modify the route enough between waypoints anyway for that to matter. Maybe like a heat map of damage taken at different spots on the map. Like that would be kind of cool. Like that kind of detail, but I don't even know if you need to watch it in real time. If you just got like a post-battle summary and it showed you where the route was and then a heat map of where damage was taken and brief reports at those different spots, rather than watching it all unfold in real time. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. Meanwhile, our losses are increasing, so we are losing a fair number of planes. It did feel like the early part of the raid was perhaps more effective than the Peenemünde raid, but we still got a long way to go. It's 3 a.m, but I see lots of red streams here indicating where bombers are. I'm not sure if we turn off. If we do this, what does it show? Oh, actually, maybe all the bombers have already gone in, and these guys are just heading back. The deadly boxes. I'm assuming the green represents radar contacts. Okay, so that was not, you know what's crazy is the Peenemünde raid that we launched, we lost more. We still lost like 30 bombers or 30 aircraft. Berlin, everything's still yellow. It's not going to be, let's take a look at the after action reports. All right, so the first group of 510 bombers that were hitting Berlin from the north, they were hitting Wiesenesse. They suffered only 2 bombers shot down, and they shot down 2 German interceptors, so that raid actually went very well. The Rosenthal raid, which went a little bit later in the day and was a more direct route. Actually, this is the early raid. The Rosenthal raid, these were the bad bombers. So these are the Sterlings, the shorter ranged bombers. They didn't have as good, like not the Lancasters. These guys got shredded. 226 bombers out of 390. That is a disastrous loss rate. I can't do the math. Not quite 10. But more than 5. 39 would be 10, 18 would be 5. That's a disastrous loss rate. The crappy bombers, probably the trainees, they got shredded. But the other group of Lancasters coming in more from a northerly route, the Rosenthal route, they only lost 2 out of 180. So the bad bombers had a loss rate of 6% or so, which was like, that's bad that's bad by RAF standards for night bombing. But the good bombers, they did fine. 2 and 2, not bad at all. With that being said, we are at almost an hour, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up here, and we will sort of delve into some of the details of how the campaign is going in our next episode. As well as maybe formulating a more coherent strategy. We're 4 days in. We haven't done a ton. We'll probably skip a few days. I won't show you everything on those days while I get things in order. And then our next episode, we'll really look at building a cohesive strategy that I think, anyway, might be able to win. Until next time, though, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you very much for watching, as always. And until next time, I'm out.